feeling like I'm academics. Can't ride no wave.
I try to understand things not only from an artist, person to person perspective, culturally. That's a little bit bigger. Traditions, morals. Then we got to get to business. But I try to understand things from the top level down. But you have to analyze every facet when you're trying to figure things out. Okay. I want to bring you down a real quick rabbit hole. And I hope you guys enjoy this, but also kind of like stay tuned as I kind of like, I'm going to bounce around the place a little bit. I'm a little lit, but I think I could get this done. So, me, y'all know every morning I'm like doing some construction, my DIY things. It's really like refreshing for my mind, not only when I'm doing that, but I have stuff playing in the background that's kind of like still stimulating me. And I've been really kind of like interested in this Warner potential sales. So Warner Brothers is at this point like this big movie studio house that also owns some television channels. I believe like was it CNN and a few other ones like TNT and stuff like that. And essentially they're about to sell. And there's two companies that's trying to buy it. Okay? By the way, I'll tell you why they're about to sell. Now, Warner Brothers, for people who are in the United States, you're going to easily identify it with this WB, Warner Brothers, right? Now, I'm going to tell you why I'm actually even explaining this story to you, because if you don't know, one of the big three music labels is Warner Music. Yes, it is connected to Warner Brothers, or was connected to Warner, but I want to give you a story to it that you could understand stuff. I always tell you guys, like most of the times I'm talking about a lot of things that might be cultural, big business controls everything. And if you don't understand the business, you won't understand what's going on the ground. I told you this about Atlantic. Yeah, you could say like partially, like if I had to really had a good conversation with you right now about what's up with Kodak having to leave Atlantic affected Kodak. Kodak's a hard motherfucker to deal with. Atlantic, which is Warner owns Atlantic. They signed Kodak first. They knew how to deal with him. Him going over there to Capitol, which is under Universal. It's not been the easiest thing. Yes, they gave him a quote unquote bag, but it's like, it's a very different structure, and it's probably allowed other things and other vices to kind of creep in with people and the infrastructure not there to make sure it didn't. So when you think about like even Kodak and like why does things look different? I do think part of the reason is that he's not on Atlantic. Like these things absolutely matter if you don't know. Okay, so I'm kind of giving you the context of why I'm explaining the story at all. Okay, so there's this big story that's kind of popping off right now. Warner Brothers is this, big media conglomerate. I'm calling it media, but like it's this movie house. That's what it's mostly known for, but it owns some TV channels and some other properties. It's about to be sold. Why it's about to be sold? I'll tell you why. And I know you guys have seen this image, this little picture, whatever, or this logo. It's about to be sold because, and this is the thing about businesses, for the 100-year, I think it was founded, I think it was in 1923. When was Warner Brothers founded? Yep, 1923, I'm right. So it was founded 103 years ago, right? It's been in debt for the majority of time. No matter that's one of the biggest companies in the world, it's usually in debt. I'll give you a quick history about Warner Brothers, okay? Warner Brothers, founded in 1923, they started making films. It's actually Warner Brothers, actually brothers that were last name was Warner. And when they started making films, they were very small at first, and those films, kind of like started up what they had going on. Now, film was kind of new to around that time. How they stood out and actually excelled is a few things. And again, I have proof for everything, but I want to give you an anecdotal story rather than taking time to look up everything. So just listen to me. So And this is also for any business owner. So in 1923, these guys, they had some money, I believe, from their family. They start like trying to make movies, right? At that time, movies were just pictures that were, it would be a bunch of pictures that was like the film would keep playing, and it would be in motion. That's how we get frames per second, because it was a bunch of constant pictures, and if you looked at all the pictures quickly, it looked like an actual moving picture. The way they popped off is a few things. Number one, they made some technology that people later use. It was called like a Vitaphone or something like that. It was the first technology to put sound over video. I'm bringing you way back, but this is true. Look, Warner Brothers Vitaphone. Yes. So they basically trademarked this system that was able to sync audio and video. We're streaming right now. You're watching me and I'm talking and you're hearing me. Back in 1923, they would just have just music over film because they couldn't sync talk audio to the visual. Warner Brothers helped develop this and they trademarked it. Well, look, it was made by Warner Brothers, okay? So when they did that, they were able to use that trademark to kind of license to other people, and they grew. Other than that, they also grew from making movies. They made some movies that were small, but they hit like a really good stretch of movies that were catapulting them. And I don't know if you guys know this, but it's ironic. Their first star was not a man, not a woman, was actually not even a child, was a dog. It was a dog called Rin Tin Tin. And it was a German Shepherd rescued from World War One, and they made movies about this dog. And this dog became this folk hero in American culture because, people love their dogs. So this dog was like this dog being like really integral. Like if you ever watch it, it's like the dog helped save the day. The dog was like, didn't speak clearly, but like it loved the humans around them. And this was huge in the movie world back then. Okay. Just keep listening to me and just be open to some new information. I know I'm probably being a little bit slower with this, but I want you guys to get this story. This is a really good story. So that happened. A few things along the line happened as well. Warner started from movies. They got some proprietary technology to sync visual and audio. They got at least one series of movies with the dog that's kind of popping off. And then the next thing that makes them like this big thing is that they kind of do a deal with Time. Now, Time from Time magazine. Time does something with Warner and it becomes like Time Warner. When did Time and Warner merge? Now, I think I'm probably skipping a step here, but I don't want to make this too long. So Time and Warner eventually merged. So they started in 1923. The movies is whatever. They're learning technology, whatever. They're going through some difficulty, but they're still doing their thing. As I said, they were always in debt. In January 1990, actually, let's go back to 89. They were really in debt. And Time Inc., which is the company that owns Time Magazine and whatever, they merged. So Time and Warner became this company called Time Warner. Then in 2000, we had the internet bubble. Remember, everybody thought that, there was the Y2K, and everybody thought that the internet and like how the clocks were going to have to change to 000, that maybe it was going to fuck shit up. And the internet was popping off at this point. So internet companies were becoming big. One of the biggest internet companies at the time was AOL. I'm going to give you, again, I'm throwing out little nuggets here. You guys could watch this as a VOD. I'm pretty sure Joe will get this. And you could Google everything I'm saying. I'm only speaking facts. The internet bubble popped off late 90s to like 2005, 2006. And I'll give you some details about that. This is why Mark Cuban's a billionaire. Mark Cuban had a company called broadcast.com. It wasn't proprietary. There was no huge sales revenue, but the internet was something that everybody was fascinated on and they were betting on, that they bought this company for billions of dollars, even though honestly it wasn't really worth that much. But people believed in the internet. I know some of you guys will be like, get to the point. We're going to get to the point. So 2000, remember, Warner turns to Time Warner. They tried to acquire or actually merge with AOL. Anybody remember AOL? You've got mail. When they try to merge with AOL, it's one of the most disruptive mergers in history. That merger ends up turning into, it actually didn't work. So essentially, the merger basically got fucked up and they never merged. Okay? Look, actually, they didn't merge. They merged, but it was unsuccessful and they had to sell off stuff, right? So, okay, they announced so they merged in 89, 90, whatever. All right, let me look at the AOL. AOL Time Warner. My bad, sorry. Okay, so AOL, so in 2001, they're doing this merger. Yeah, actually, I don't think it ever went through. Cool. So it was a 182 billion actually planned to buy Time Warner. AOL was going to buy it. Remember what I said about Mark Cuban's thing? They because the internet was so new, they would value these internet companies to be billions of dollars, even though they had no way of showing via revenue, because at the time there was no revenue for internet companies. So AOL, because it had subscribers and people wanted the internet, they gave it this massive valuation actually, saying it was worth like 200 billion. And they were going to buy Time Warner. Okay? They supposedly closed it. A lot of it wasn't based on cash. It was based on like stock and all that type of stuff. It closes and it creates AOL Time Warner in 2001. Okay? In only 2 years, the company fucks up and the merger falters and there's a bunch of shit that happens. Okay? So Time Warner spins off of AOL. They leave AOL by itself, and Time Warner keeps, because at that point they had cable channels and they had like some media portfolio. Verizon later buys AOL, but fuck that. Okay, this is jumping too far ahead. Anyway, Warner kind of spins out of this really tragic deal with AOL, and they end up being in debt. As I said, this company's always been in debt. It's one of the biggest companies, but never really super profitable. So, in 2003, because they're in debt so much, Warner Brothers starts to sell off assets to try to pay down their debts. Remember, their main thing is movies. They also have TV stations at this point. And at this point, in the 90s, they had started, I believe, with Elektra Records. Then they bought Atlantic and they bought another company. So they bought record labels and created Warner. They bought independent and created Warner. They sell Warner. Warner Music gets sold 2000, I think it's 2004, I think. Okay. So Warner sells Warner Music Group in 2004. Okay? Now, I'm gonna try to make everything make sense too, because when we talk about Atlantic, When we talk about, that's what that is. So the movie company, who also owns a music studio and also owns some TV stations, they try to combine with AOL. Shit doesn't work. They're in debt. They sell off their music assets, and they sell it off to some investor called Edgar Bronfman or whatever, right? Some venture capitalist guys. Cool. Now, by the way, as I'm explaining this, I'm hoping you guys are keeping up. This would take me like probably 3 hours to like show you everything. So like you guys could just Google, pause the video, Google whatever if you want to know more. Okay, so now Warner Music Group is no longer part of Warner. Because I seen 6ix9ine say this recently. He was like, yo, because he was commenting on the Warner and Netflix thing. No, Warner sold Warner Music Group back in 2004. Okay? So that happened then. What ends up happening with Warner Brothers, they're having just a shit ton of debt. Like just shit ton of debt. By the way, they sold the music company, which by the way is pretty cheap comparatively now, right? $1.3 billion. All right. Give me 1 second. I had a few notes. And I'm hoping you guys are like keeping up with this. Okay, so cool. Now, as far as the music label goes, as far as music, so there's different arcs. So we have Warner Brothers. They owned TV station, movie studio. The movies has always been the main thing. Then they owned this music company that they bought a couple of like record labels and they combined and they made Warner Music Group. They try to merge with AOL, doesn't work. They're in debt. They sell Warner Music Group so they sell the music assets to like some investor called Edgar Bronfman and like his group, right? Because they wanted to get out of debt. They sold for $1.3 billion. They were hemorrhaging cash. What happens from 2000, and they did this in 2004. If anybody remembers, hopefully some of you guys were alive at that time, 2004 to 2011. In music, what happened is that CDs, remember after, 50 did good, but after that, like people stopped buying CDs. Piracy became a thing. Napster, Kazaa, these other places that people were doing peer-to-peer sharing, they weren't buying as much music. They were just stealing it. So CD sales were going down. Streaming isn't a thing yet. Streaming pops off in 2014, 2015. So what happens is Warner Music Group, remember they get sold from Warner, so now they're a different company, even though it's still called Warner. They're losing money every year from 2004. Billions. Well, not billions, but like hundreds of millions. They're losing money. In 2011, they sell again. They get sold to, I think they're Russian. The Blavatnik family. Okay? And they bought the company. And the company was bought, and look, billionaire, they bought it for $3.3 billion, whatever. I think they bought it with a group. Now, when Warner gets bought for $3.3 billion in 2011, for the second time, right? So Warner sells it, some group buys it, and then Len Blavatnik buys it in 2011. He buys it at a time where he takes a loss for like 2 years, then streaming pops up, which kind of saves the company. So streaming saved Warner Music because Warner Music was kind of headed down the road of possibly getting acquired by Universal Music because Universal's just always been the biggest. But streaming pops up and starts generating revenue. Okay? Now, that's the music side of stuff, right? And, we could delve into that a little bit more. These days, Warner announced an IPO, I believe, a couple of years ago. Your favorite rapper is leaving is because they started making money from streaming and shit started to be good. And then they wanted to go, so the investors lending them, they wanted to dilute, like they had so much money in, they wanted to kind of reap some of the profits. So they put it on the stock market that they could kind of liquidate some of their shit, but still have a lot of leverage. And they did an IPO, Warner Music IPO. Yeah, the IPO was in 2020. So they bought it in 2011. They announced the IPO in 2020, and that's where people could like now it's a publicly traded company. Okay, now I always tell you, why does this matter? I know some people are like, "Ak, you're killing us with the business shit." Once this was announced, the company went on a let's save money campaign. Why? Because you want shareholders to have confidence in the stock. And every quarter for every publicly traded company, you have to report to shareholders how much you spent versus how much you made. So they kind of did a freeze and hold. So all the rappers who needed to get re-signed, and go back, just I'm telling you real dates. 2020, it was a 1.5 year period. Your favorite rapper left Warner during 2020 to 2021 because they didn't want to spend no money. They wanted the investors, regular people watching the stock market, to say, "Oh, there's a lot of profit." How do you fake show a lot of profit? Well, we're not spending no money, but we're making this from catalog. So Meek, we're not giving you no fucking $10 million deal. Get the fuck out of here. Young boy, what you want, a $15, $20 million deal? Get the fuck on out of here. Kodak, you want a 10, 15? Get the fuck on out of here. They let everybody go. That's how that happens, okay? So anyway, that's the music side of things. Again, it's called Warner Music Group, but it's actually not connected to Warner and hasn't been since 2004 when it first got sold when they were trying to get out of debt. So that's a little bit on Warner Music. So now let's get back to Warner. And this is where like the interest in like drama comes in, because this is some shit that everybody's interested at this point. So remember I told you they tried to merge with, so Warner, the bigger company, right? Not just music. We're talking about the movie company that also owns some television stations, right? Let's see. What TV stations does Warner Brothers own? They're going to tell you. CNN, HBO, Discovery. Okay, cool. Right? I bet. So, yeah, they did a deal with Discovery later on too. But they own these TV stations, right? And also, there was a deal for TBS. I don't want to get into that. Anyway, so now y'all should understand how Warner Music Group exists and how they've benefited because of the streaming era. This is why I think Drake looks at shit like, yo, honestly, Drake should be a billionaire just off of his. If you think, let me make and I hope I'm not being scatterbrained here. If y'all think that, like, you know how Spotify was trying to find proof of concept for could podcasts work on here? And obviously, yeah, they use Joe Budden, then they use Joe Rogan. Maybe Joe Rogan would be like, yo, I deserve way more than $3 million or $300 million. Like, I was the proof that when y'all needed to make this shit work, I made it work for y'all. That's Drake for streaming. The music industry was in a place that they were like, we're not selling CDs. We can't sell physical product. How can we make this shit work? And Drake showed them streaming is the wave. So Drake, I see why he also probably thinks, you know, incorrectly, of course, yo, these companies should never want nobody to go against me and they support those guys over me. I helped build this shit. Drake built the industry we lived in. We live in now. This streaming industry, Drake built it. And no one will ever discount that. That's a fact. He was the prototype. He took the chances. He took the odd deals. He went against when Jay-Z was trying to get him into the fold. He said, no, I'm going to do this. He was the leader that helped build it. But that's what saved Warner and a few other places, just to let you know. So I'm telling you, industry wide, I see why Drake sometimes feels the entitlement, because what he did for music and streaming back in 2015 and 2016, it changed the entire industry. But it's neither here nor there. So let's get back to this and let's see if we could knock this out in about 5 minutes. So we're done with the music label, and we're over here just talking about Warner. Remember I said Warner still ain't making money. Whether it's a music label or the music part, which they're not connected to anymore, or this, they're not making money. They're always like in a loss. So essentially, let me do this timeline. Okay. So basically, they go back to the name Time Warner. By the way, I think Time Warner owns TMZ. They did buy TMZ. Time Warner Cable, they're spun off as separate entities. Time Magazine gets spun off as separate entities, and Warner Brothers is just kind of mostly movies then. Sorry. Now, the point is this. Warner Brothers, a company that has been known for groundbreaking trademark technology that advanced film. They own television networks. They were influential or instrumental in music. At this point, it's an antiquated company. They have tried to do, streaming. That's not their bread and butter. Their bread and butter is movies. By the way, I'll tell you notable movies Warner Bros. Produced. Hopefully I could show you the new ones. Like, they do have some movies that really make them a lot of money, but people ain't going to the theaters no more like that. And that's where they're coming into debt. So they have now, because they also went public just as Warner, they decided it was time to sell. So Warner Brothers are trying to sell. Now, I'm going to speed rush through the rest of this. So Warner Brothers, they basically combined with Discovery, because Discovery was its own thing. So they're now Warner Brothers Discovery. And they basically realized, like, people ain't going to the movie theaters anymore. It's in the best interest of everyone, based on their debt, based on they don't really have a plan going forward. They can't compete in streaming. They should just sell, right? Which would liquidate stuff, and people who are shareholders could get paid out. And the two people that want to buy it are Netflix. Everybody knows Netflix. And there's another company called Paramount Skydance. Now, along with me explaining this is also kind of showing you how much it's such a... I might be in my head about thinking that you guys don't understand what I'm saying, but I think you do. So Paramount Skydance, it's a really interesting thing too, right? And I'll give you the 3-minute version of that. So Paramount. Okay. So Paramount was this I got some notes on it. Sorry. Okay. Paramount basically got bought out by Skydance. It was kind of known for like Viacom. So basically Paramount is like, it's like Viacom, right? So whatever you think Viacom is, CBS and shit like that, Paramount became that. Skydance kind of bought that out, or became like a merger with Paramount, and they bought that out. Let me see if I can find it. Skydance, yeah. And really, Skydance was a production company. Skydance movies. I feel like I'm like leaving some of y'all behind. They did Mission Impossible, the new ones, Top Gun. They had a couple dope movies that they did. But the important part, and this is also a bigger theme in me explaining this, is that this industry is really ran by nepotism. Because I'm gonna make some predictions right now. So let's go back to the music. Remember, in music, there's the big three. Okay, I'm drunk. Three. Universal, Sony, Music Entertainment, Warner Music Group. Who runs the biggest one? We all know. Lucian Grange, right? Well, it's not Warner. He doesn't run that. Warner Music Group is ran by this guy, but there's a new thing. The biggest thing under Warner Music Group is called Atlantic Music Group. Who runs it? And you'll see the same name. So the son of the guy who runs the biggest company is like, to make it simple, imagine, Mercedes competes with BMW and Audi. Imagine the nigga who runs Mercedes, his son runs Audi. You get what I'm saying? Nepotism. Only in rap, people like this, there's this Game of Thrones mentality of, let's take this nigga spot. Let's get him out of here. You see how Kendrick is like, yo, let me call this nigga a pedophile. Like, I want to be number one. In executive land, it's not like that. It's usually just moving shit around and just trying to consolidate. They play Monopoly very differently. So in music right now, when Universal is planning, they're saying, we got to beat out Sony and we got to beat out Warner. Well, one of the biggest guys at Warner, which is their competitor, is the son of the nigga who's running Universal. Case in point, let's go back to the point I was trying to make. Paramount Skydance. Paramount, which owns CBS and used to be Viacom or whatever, they get taken over by, or merged, kind of taken over by Skydance. You know who that owner is? It's a guy named David Ellison. You might look at him and say, who the fuck is this guy? Right? Born blah, blah, American film producer, former actor. He's the CEO of Paramount Skydance. All you need to know, he's the son of Larry Ellison, a centibillionaire. I don't even know what that fucking is. This guy's dad is like top 5 richest guy in the world. This is for everyone who thinks that there's actual prerequisites in life. No, it's nepotism. With all due respect, I love Elliot. Elliot's damn near running Warner Music. Ain't no prerequisite. Nigga, what's his qualifications? Signing 6ix9ine and Trippie Redd? Or is his prerequisites, my father runs the biggest company in the fucking world? So you get this guy who takes over, like he does a takeover. Larry Ellison, his father is one of the richest men in the world. He takes over Paramount. And now, because his father has all the money in the world, he's like, I want to run this shit. So let's go back to Warner. He runs Paramount, Skydance. Netflix is trying to buy Warner. But he says, wait, hold on now. I want to buy it. So he's competing with Netflix to buy Warner. I don't know why I think this is like really good tea. But I guess this is some business shit I like. So here's the thing. Netflix says, yo, check this out. We don't care about Warner TV stations. We just want the streaming the streaming properties, because there's something called Paramount Plus or whatever the case. They're like, we want all their streaming properties. We're going to fold everything up under Netflix. We want to run streaming. Y'all could take the TV shit. No, they want the movie shit, but just for the catalog. They say you could take the TV shit. We don't want the TV shit. We don't want to own TNT. The fuck? Think we want to own CNN? Fuck out of here. So Netflix wants everything Warner Brothers got but the TV stations. Paramount, Skydance says, no, we want it. We want everything. Netflix says, yo, we'll give y'all $80 billion cash right now. Take it. This dude comes and look, Paramount Skydance offer is going to show up. Offer. Here we go. They said, we'll give you $108 billion, but we want everything. So Netflix says, we'll give you $80 billion, but we only want streaming. They said, we'll give you $108 billion. Remember, his father's one of the top 3 richest niggas in the world. Now, this is how you get to realize, you know, I always say it's better to be liked than to be right. When it comes to business, it's better your dad's a fucking billionaire than you got good business sense. Fuck all that other shit. So essentially within about 30 days or 90 days, they've been putting stuff off and it's a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo happening. The shareholders is going to vote on what deal they're going to take. Are you going to take this $108 billion or are you going to take Netflix offer? Netflix offer Warner Brothers, which is $82 billion. I know what y'all saying. Yo, $108 billion versus 82, easy. No, remember, Netflix is only buying a portion of. They're buying 80% of the company or 70%. Paramount wants 100%. So what it comes down to is per stock is $7 difference. So it's $37 if they go with it's about $37 if they go with Paramount or $30 if they go with Netflix. Obviously, people who own the stock, they don't give a fuck. They're like, yo, give us the most amount of money. But then the board for Netflix is actually, no, not Netflix, I'm sorry. Warner Brothers is we recommend us going with Netflix because Netflix, I don't know if you guys know about the market cap of Netflix, is $402 billion. Netflix annual revenue. Netflix annual revenue for 2024 was $39 billion. They're making a shit ton of money. Right? So Netflix has a lot of cash. Netflix is saying, it's like you trying to buy something and you're like, yo, I got cash. Netflix has all cash. Paramount Skydance, right? They have basically loans. They're like, oh, we're going to have these people coming with this. This bank is giving us this. So they have they have a package that's going to be the $108 billion, but it's leverage, which means it's loans, it's this. This is how interesting it gets. So the board of Warner Brothers said, yo, hey, we'll consider your offer a little bit more serious. This is what they're saying to Paramount Skydance. Remember, this guy's the CEO. He's the CEO of Paramount Skydance. They said, we'll consider your offer a little bit more serious. Because you ever try to buy something and somebody take a lower price just for the straight cash? I ain't gonna lie. When I bought my house, I'll tell you the truth. So when I bought my house, so I was trying to buy another house and I didn't get that house. And I really liked that other house. But actually, I love this house more. But when it came to this, the owner, who was some Wall Street guy who finessed all type of shit. But when it came to this, he took my offer I think I offered him that price. It was like one of those weird times where people were given prices or bidding prices over what they were requesting. So if they wanted 2 million, people were like, "Oh, I'll give you 2.3." And I sent my realtor and I said, "I'll give the asking price for the house, and I'm doing it cash. So nigga, I'm wiring it straight to your bank account. There's no mortgage, no nothing." And that's why I actually got my house, because maybe people would have bid higher because this is a beautiful house. But the people who are selling it, they didn't have to wait on a bank. They didn't have to wait on nothing. Once it's signed, I had a couple days to send the money straight to them, and they took it. So they probably took a discount. I probably got a discount because people would have probably bet more, or not bet, but like bid more. So I'm trying to give you like, a little bit of a understanding here. People would so Netflix is saying, we'll give you cash, which is attractive. They got the money. You don't got to wait for it. They could just send it to you. $82 billion. This Paramount Skydance shit is like, we got $108 billion for you, but we got like 8 banks. We got this, we got that. So what they did was they were saying, we're probably going to go with Netflix because they got straight cash. Cash is king. And Paramount Skydance trying to get into the mix, they said to, I guess this dude, but really to the company, if you could get his father to do a personal guarantee. Remember his father, look, Larry Ellison. He's worth $252 billion. So they basically told this company, if the CEO's dad will personally guarantee that if one of the banks or one of the loans fails, because it takes a while, it takes like 18 months, or maybe could even be 2 years, plus regulatory stuff. If it takes all that to approve and go through, let's say somebody falls out, they're not losing out on money. They're saying, could this guy, which is the Pops, $252 billion, could he personally guarantee that he'll send them $100 million? It's not the whole 100, but it's like 40 something, because the other stuff is guaranteed. But there's part of it that's not really fully guaranteed. But they wanted this dude to personally guarantee that whoever doesn't have the bread, he's going to come up out of pocket to pay. And that should just tell you all you need to know about the world. This motherfucker, one of the richest people in the whole world, his son is trying to buy Warner Brothers, competing with Netflix. They've offered more than Netflix. They want to buy the whole company. And it's gotten to the point where the company that's selling is looking at them to say, could your father guarantee that we're just going to get this bread? And it just goes to show, and I guess this was kind of point of the whole story I told you guys. They're down to sell, it looks like it's probably going to go to Netflix, but if they get these guys to raise the price a little bit, and Larry Ellison, which one of the richest niggas in the world, guarantees that he's going to make sure that they get paid, they're going to sell to these guys. So I say all that to say, luck in business, meaning luck in the terms of you were born as the son of one of the richest niggas, the top 3 richest niggas in the world. Yeah, that's better than good business, if you ask me. Let's look. Top 10 richest. Yeah, he's number 5. He's known for Oracle. He's known for Oracle, chat. We got Elon, Larry Page, Bezos. Who's this guy? So I guess 2 Google Alphabet people, then Ellison, and then Zuckerberg. He's even richer than Zuckerberg. God damn. They have a floating list of the billionaires? Let's see. Oh, wow. Ellison's right here. He's number 4 right now. Then the Bernard Arnault family. I think, this is fashion. This is why Kanye be ranting about him. They're like the top 5 richest people in the world. Anyway, LVMH. All right. Let me look at the chat. Did any of that make sense? If it didn't make sense, maybe I'll do it like on a low-key stream to try to spell it out. I'm trying to show you how business shifts and changes everything, but also how the people in power how they move around, and it's really their world. When we sit here and we're arguing about, yo man, Kodak, why you not popping no more? Man, there's so much bigger business happening that we kind of get to realize like we're talking about the wrong things. Okay, somebody says Saudi. Hey, if y'all, well, we're not gonna do it tonight. If y'all want me to get into how China has infiltrated the music business and how the Saudis are trying to do it, you have to remember, money runs all of this shit. Okay, I'm glad you guys mentioned that. I don't know if you're being facetious, but I'll indulge you. The next time I do something like this, I'm going to try to do it a little bit better, maybe with some videos or whatever. China has been quietly investing and buying up a lot of catalog. They own a lot of shit. You see all these rappers like, yo, I sold my catalog, I sold this. China has been trying to buy our entire music business. I don't know if you guys know. Ownership in Universal Music Group. Look, these are the biggest ownerships. So the major stakes go to these people. Actually, we could just click on their site because I think they're, look, here's a major shareholders. Okay. The Vivendi family owns okay, 13%. Tencent Holding. Tencent. It's a Chinese company. They have there's some Chinese companies that are really putting a lot of money in music. We don't know why. Like, yeah, it's things that we'll probably appreciate given streaming and stuff like that, but it's like they're getting so much stake that eventually they could have control. But China and these Chinese companies that are like really wealthy, they have taken aim at music companies. And that's where I think we got to figure out why overall. So China and Saudis are trying to infiltrate the music business of the United States. We'll get into that another time. By the way, the people in the Middle East, look, like golf is like completely fucked up because of that, right? Look, like they did live golf, right? And pretty much the PBA or PGA, I mean, PGA. Oh, never mind. Look, maybe they're running out of time to fight with the PGA Tour. The PGA Tour actually linked with them for a bit, but they've been trying to pay their way into golf. Not too sure why, but shit, they were trying to offer individual golfers to come over there. Mad bread. Anyway. Yeah. So the Saudis
at Burger King, celebrity.
So the Saudis were trying to like really take over golf. There's a lot of heavy influence from these other places that they're trying to just purchase whatever they can in terms of American culture and like the business of the culture. So we'll see. Anyway.